Millions of people live in multicultural Britain. Many come from different parts of the world, bringing with them their own language and culture. English is the main language spoken in England. English is the language of Shakespeare and other great writers. It is one of the most popular languages in the world, with over 1 billion people speaking it as their first or second language. But in such a multicultural country, can one dominant language be a barrier as well as a means of communication?
I'm English and my mum is French.
अस्सलाम वालेकुम, मैं इंडिया बेंगलुरु से हूँ, मैं उर्दू बात करती हूँ.
Hola, soy de España y hablo español.
Magyarországról jöttem és magyarul beszélek.
வணக்கம், நான் இந்தியா பெங்களூரில் வந்திருக்கேன், நான் தமிழ் பேசுவேன்.
Je suis français et je parle français.
I'm from England and I speak English.
Часто с polskim mówię po polsku.
Я из Латвии, я говорю по-русски.
നമസ്കാരം, ഞാൻ ഇന്ത്യയിൽ കേരളത്തിൽ നിന്ന് വരുന്നു. ഞാൻ മലയാളം സംസാരിക്കും.
Vim de Portugal e falo português.
Je suis anglaise.
The more diverse or multicultural a country is, the more language becomes a barrier. A group of young people living in the Ipswich area have come together to explore the language and communications issues that arise when you move to a new country. They want an answer to the question, what can we all do to make language less of a barrier?
We're going to explore the effects of language barrier in the world of school, travel, sports, shopping, and everyday life.
A few months ago, a boy from Poland moved to my school, and as time went on, we started to realise that his English wasn't very good, and he always found it very hard to mix with people and to interact with people at school. If he would have been in Poland at that time, he probably would have socialised quite a lot, but because his English wasn't very good, he found it very hard to interact with people, and he was quite isolated. And then eventually, because of this reason, he had to move school, and it's quite sad that just because his English wasn't very good, it actually ended up with him moving school.
When I came to England, I didn't speak English, any of English. And my friends in school, they helped me with body language to be more easier. And because when I was trying to talk to them, some words in Portuguese, but they can't understand what I was saying, and then I was trying to speak to them when, for example, when I was trying, can I have some paper, or can I have a pen, or things like that. I was trying to body language, can I have a pen, something like that. But saying Portuguese and the same time body language. Yeah. Then my friends, the English one helped me, and the Portuguese one too, because I had a Portuguese friend that helped me.
Jennifer and Ariana have helped each other learn enough English to be able to get on at school and to do the things all teenage girls enjoy, like going into town and checking out the shops. They both come a long way from the days when sign language was the main way they communicated with English people.
I have come across quite a lot of students who can't speak any English at all, and it has been quite difficult sometimes to actually communicate with them. A lot of it is non-verbal, and sometimes I draw pictures. I use whatever way I can just to manage to communicate on a very basic level.
I went to Halifax Primary School in Ipswich, and as I was growing up, there wasn't really that many people what speak foreign languages in Halifax. There was a handful, but not many. So I thought
yeah, they're okay, there's not that many, so I could stand that. But when I went up to high school, there were so many people that speak foreign languages like Portuguese, Polish and things like that. I made friends with this girl, I think she was from Poland. And what happened is one day she said something to me and I thought, hold on, she's saying something about my family. But I didn't realise that she was speaking to me, but in a different sort of tense in her language. But I thought to myself, she knows perfect English. So at the end of that just made into a huge argument because I thought she said something about my family, so I said something about hers. But once I went up to high school, I had to understand that there are different people that are foreign, and you have to understand that sometimes they will get it wrong, but you've then got help try and correct it for them and help them.
Lydia is from Argentina. She became a model and then reported on radio and TV. Her last job was presenting a TV program showing viewers how to host parties and promotional events. She came to England in the summer of 2010.
Y por ejemplo, tampoco el primer día cuando no entiendo muy bien leer, o en la estación de tren cuando fui a tomar el tren para venir a mi pueblo, me fui y vi en la pantalla plataforma 2, Manning Tree. Ok, me quedo aquí quietita, paradita, Manning Tree, plataforma 2. Venía el tren y de pronto la pantalla empieza a cambiar un poquito, cambiar. ¿Qué pasa aquí? Y bueno, seguí quedando en plataforma 2, subí en el tren y me fui. Cuando dice la señora que habla, dice, están pasando por Manning Tree y el tren no para aquí. Llegué a Colchester, y bueno, dije, Houston, we have a problem. Y bueno, eso fue un poco tedioso porque tenía que esperar, después tenía que cambiar de tren y después volver hasta que llegué. En fin, pero ahora sé tomar un tren para mi pueblo. Bueno, desde que apenas llegué aquí en Inglaterra pude observar que la gente es muy buena, es amable, me trata bien, que trata de ayudarte a pesar de que sepas que no puedes hablar bien inglés, no puedas comunicarte bien, pero ellos tratan de ayudarte con otras palabras o acciones. Son muy amables, me gusta porque son muy amigables también. Por ejemplo, si vas paseando con el perrito en la ciudad, se acercan, quieren hablar con vos, a pesar de saber que sos extranjera. Y me gusta mucho estar aquí, en este país, en Inglaterra.
We are now on our way to the local community centre to meet the local basketball team. We went to ask their coach if he has ever encountered language barrier problems when playing. How do you get past a language barrier in a game of basketball?
Well, when it comes to basketball is like a physical sport, so there's lots of actions in it. So most of the time I'm usually demonstrating with my hands or just literally demonstrating with the ball what I'm going to do. So usually people pick it up very easy.
Do you have people from different countries playing on your team?
We got quite a few different nationalities playing for us. We got different people from like Philippines, different people from obviously English people. We got Jamaican people, all around the world really.
Is it difficult to communicate with your team?
Difficult to communicate with your team, I would say no, because as the coach, I have to be able to get my word across and for them to understand it. So if they don't understand it, then they don't play well. So I have to get my word across, really.
Would you consider not having someone in your team if they didn't speak English?
I would love anyone that hasn't picked up a basketball before to pick up their talent and just play. It's more about having fun than anything, really. It's more of just playing basketball, just getting the ball.
How do you feel learning a new language?
I would love to learn a new language because obviously we've got a multi-diverse community now, so I would love to learn any different language, really. It'd be great.
As we can see, sporting activities are based on talent more than language. The language barrier can lead to a lot of misunderstanding and confusion.
When my parents came to England, they had a lot of barriers with the language. My mum once, when they went to the doctor once, because my dad, he has a problem with his leg and he couldn't walk very well. He could understand my mum, but he was trying to be mean to my dad. And so my dad couldn't understand my mum not very well, and I was at school. So it was quite tricky, and my mum actually got really fed up with him, and she just said, I don't want to come here again. And then he got a little bit like, we don't want to lose a customer kind of thing, and then he started to understand.
Boris' mum and dad came to England from Portugal 10 years ago.
As forças ficam em zero, em equilíbrio. 10 forças de peso mais 10 daqui anulam. 10 menos 10, 0.
My dad was just saying that he made this picture because he was an art student in his college and he wanted to, because he saw this picture of Picasso that he drew, and Picasso had drawn a bull fighting with a goat, and so my dad then saw it and he liked it a lot, so he then said, oh, I'm going to try and do it with an animal and a human.
I'm a blood technician, and my husband was illustrator, books of children, and he was a scuba diver too. The major problems is the language, because when I arrived, I didn't speak any English, just speak French and Portuguese. When I arrived, I saw too much letters with big red letters, and I look, but I don't understand what they can say for me, and I become sad. My husband and I decided to go to frequent one school.
When Hostelina came to my class, it was probably about 7 years ago, I think now, she was unable to communicate except at a very, very basic level. She understood very, very little English, and it was very difficult. It took a long time for her to make progress, and I'm sure if you were to talk to her, she would tell you that every step forward, or every 2 steps forward, was 1 step back. But after a long time, and she really, really had to work very, very hard.
3 years ago, when I decided to move in here for this house, I looked out and said, I talked with my husband, oh, it's better when blind, this style.
And when she went to buy the blinds, she didn't know the difference between width and length. So she thought that, because in our culture, in Portuguese culture, we normally say width first, but she said length first in English. So she meant that length. So they made the width longer than the length of it, so it got really messed up.
I paid all them, 389 pounds. I pay all them. When I receive them, try to fix them. Looks, the man who fixed said for me, sorry, that is wrong. Wrong? Yes. Look for that. The white, the measure I give there, the white comes drop, and the drop comes white. It's so funny, because and I decide, okay, and I went to Donald's again with my husband and try to explain. But he said, the wrong is yours, not mine, because he tells me these measures. I take them, put in V.
My mum is French, and although she can speak perfect English, she still has a bit of an accent. And one time she was at a shop and she asked the assistant if she could return something. And the assistant said, sorry, I don't understand what you're saying. And she asked again and she still said she didn't understand. So she turned to the woman behind her and asked if she understood what she was saying, and she said perfectly. And after that, the assistant seemed to understand what she was saying too. And it's just an incident that proves sometimes it has to be other people's willingness to accept and help overcome a language barrier.
People who come to a new country as adults, when it's harder to learn a new language, can have particular difficulty overcoming the language barrier. Ariana's mum, Deborah, is originally from Cape Verde. She migrated to Portugal in the 1990s.
Oh, mamãe, não entendo, não consigo entender.
Mas o que não entende?
A língua. Ah, não, este é espanhol.
She's now been in the UK for just over a year with her family.
Vim para a Inglaterra para procurar uma vida melhor, procurar estabilidade, segurança e procurar um bom futuro para minha filha. Em Portugal eu trabalhava, eu e o meu marido. Eu era cozinheira e o meu marido era pedreiro, trabalhava na construção civil. Tínhamos uma vida boa, não muito boa, mas razoável, dava para viver. Só que, apesar de muitas dificuldades, não é, que o país apresentava, problemas financeiros e outras coisas mais, obrigou-nos a vir para a Inglaterra. Well, the language is very, very difficult for me. Work, house, comunicação com as pessoas, the people speak with me, gestos, como é que se diz gestos? Gestos, esforçam-se bastante para explicar e eu consigo entender algumas coisas e outras não. Então, às vezes é muito difícil falar, compreender, né, a comunicação, mas a gente esforça-se, né, faz o melhor. I do my best. Eu quero que a Ariana, minha filha, seja arquiteta, e é o que ela gosta de fazer também, é o que ela mais gosta, e quero um bom futuro. Mesmo que ela escolha uma outra profissão, eu vou aceitar, mas que seja uma profissão boa e que lhe dê um bom futuro.
In the real world, to live comfortably, I think you need to be able to know the language to mix with people around you.
Yeah.
For example, if in England, where English is the main language, if two people applied for a job and one of them didn't know, or one of the people's English wasn't very good, obviously the person that can speak good English would get the job. So
yeah, there's places so like they can go help now, so like they can take English classes.
yeah, but that's not always practical, is it? Like the employer is going to think it's going to be easier if I employ the person who knows English better, because that's just going to be a lot easier, and money won't be used on him to to teach him English?
I think language is equally a barrier as it is an opportunity, because millions of people make a living translating language or helping other people learn a language. So yes, if you go to another country, on one hand it is a barrier, but on the other hand it creates hundreds of jobs for people, and it's equally a gateway as it is to a barrier.
We are here to help people breaking the language barrier. Sometimes even out of office hour, we still take the calls from, for example, hospitals or social services when there is some urgent need for an interpreter. For example, I got a call from a lady one day on a Saturday. They have a problem in the family. The husband had put a knife into his stomach, and she wanted to take him to the hospital, but unfortunately she can't speak much English, so she called me with her broken English and asked for an interpreter, and I quickly get an interpreter for her. And sometimes, for example, people need to go to deliver her baby in the hospital, and this may happen at night time, and still we can manage to send an interpreter. But obviously, these need to have some notice from hospital or from social services. The most popular languages at the moment in Suffolk here will be Polish, Portuguese, Kurdish, Bengali, Chinese, Farsi, and they are mainly jobs for these interpreters. For others like Russian, Albanian, Turkish, they are also called often.
Me and my family have been in the country for 6 years now, and because I was quite young when I came here first, I haven't found it that hard, and I find it quite easy to communicate with other people now. But because my parents are older than me, they found it hard to pick up the language really quickly, or well, to pick up the accents really quickly, and so the accent can be a problem. For example, sometimes when my friends come around my house, and my mum offers some food or something, my friends often have to go, "Pardon? Or can you say that again, please?" Because my mum has quite a strong Indian accent. And similarly, when my mum picks up a phone, or if the phone's from an official phone call from a bank or something, the strong English accent that's said over the phone, my mum finds it quite hard to understand it. So often she has to give the phone to me or to my dad.
I've been brought up in Ipswich, but my dad and my nana and his family has been brought up in Orford and Oakenway, and they have a very strong Suffolk accent, and that has been quite hard to understand them. But when I go on my nana's, it is quite hard to understand her, because she'll just say to my dad, "You're a right boy," and that means you're a right boy, and that's very strong. My dad has a very strong one as well, but over the years I've learned to understand them, and now I can understand them perfectly, and now I sometimes speak like it.
Through this, we realised that language can be a barrier in many ways. For example, accents or body language and the language itself. But you must always realise that if the person can't speak your language, you need to remember that you can't speak their language either. So you should always respect them and always help them get past the language barrier. And language isn't always a barrier unless you choose to make it a barrier. You can always work past the language barrier. So remember, please don't let language be a barrier between people. People who come to Britain almost always make a big effort to learn English.
If more people made little effort to learn another language, the language barrier would be a lot smaller and will be a happier country.
esta es mi historia.